Hi, I'm Not Arts. Today I'm going to talk about genetically altered organisms. Now you might be asking,
But not what is this thing you call the genetically modified organisms?
well, I'm glad you asked, you little scamp. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are organisms in which the genetic material has been modified in some way that does not occur naturally. This includes plants, animals, and microorganisms. But the question is, are GMOs a good thing? Or are they like this here? A yelling, screaming monster. Well, I suppose that if we wanted to answer this question, we'd have to go back to the beginning. Back in the 1800s, a Czech scientist named Gregor Mendel would perform hybridization experiments, where he would breed different species of plants to see what would happen. This was the basis for the idea of genetically modifying foods. Fast forward about 100 years, an agricultural company known as Monsanto employed a chemist named John Franz to develop a new herbicide known as Monsanto glyphosate. However, you might know it as a chemical that kills weeds. In the 80s, two chemists began a process which allowed them to cut up the DNA of other organisms.
Biotechnology! Yes!
Then, the Supreme Court ruled that GMOs could be patented. Again, we go back to Monsanto. They start genetically modifying their crops. Yes, you heard me right. We're eating this stuff. You see this delicious looking box of Count Chocula? It contains GMOs. So does this. And this. And this! You know how I know? It says it. Right here. In fact, over 70% of grocery store items contain genetically modified organisms. These include vegetables and grains and corn. Corn. You might be wondering, is this how our food is made now?
It's alive! It's alive!
No, it's not quite like that. To find out more, we need to consult another source. To the computer! So back to the question at hand. Are genetically altered foods good or, you know? Well, let's start with the positives. Since some food has been modified to become larger, there is much more efficient use of the land in order to grow crops. This means we have the potential to feed starving children.
Whoa.
In addition, these crops are modified to resist things such as weed and disease.
Whoa.
The foods also taste better, which is good if you base food off of taste alone. They last longer on the supermarket shelf too. However, the most interesting aspect I found in my research was this. Apparently, genetic engineering of plants can provide edible vaccines, which would be used to prevent diseases such as, and I quote here, cholera and potentially AIDS. Wow. Now you might be saying,
well, gee wilkers, genetically altered food is the best thing since non-genetically altered sliced bread.
well, while this all sounds awesome, there are quite a lot of negatives, which we will discuss right now. GMOs have negatives aplenty. Take
Starling.
corn, for example. While this may sound like some sort of cool futuristic space corn, actually it's pig feed. It was never intended for human consumption. This is just one of the many types of GMOs out there. The scary part? They're all on sale in grocery stores worldwide. So, while you might envision this,
Happy food for a happy you.
actually, it's more like this.
Crappy food for a crappy you.
Another point to bring up would be pharmaceuticals. Genes from these drugged-up plants have unfortunately been transferred to normal plants via pollen spread. These plants, complete with their insect, weed, and disease resistance, are then fed to animals. And these animals are then fed to us. Yay! GMO foods have not been adequately tested, and some were never consumed by humans before. such as the aforementioned pig feed.
Genetically altered foods also have a decreased nutritional value.
Take phytate, a mineral which is found in grains as an example. It binds with the materials in the grain, which makes the food less healthy. One of the best examples would be when scientists studied a soybean that had been modified, and they learned that it contained less phytoestrogen than a normal soybean.
This contains less phytoestrogen than a normal soybean. What's phytoestrogen?
Oh, that just helps fight cancer and heart disease. That's all.
Oh!
My final point for today would be the main negative aspect. Genetically altered foods are toxic!
Right now, the toxicity levels in the plants are low enough to have little health concerns. However, there is concern that soon, new genes will be inserted into plants. Yeah, and when they are, it is very likely that this will increase the toxicity, especially if the gene becomes damaged. An example would be potatoes, which produces more glycoalkaloids than usual.
You know, it's ironic that food that has been modified to be healthier creates a whole new range of problems. Well, it's time to wrap up. Back to the couch! So GMOs, which, by the way, I am very tired of saying, do have some positive benefits. However, the negatives definitely outweigh the positives. Between the health hazards and the other dangers, not to mention the ridiculously insane cost, $200 million, really? These things are definitely not safe, and that's why I'm informing you, the community. Not like I had to or anything. That'd be silly. Well, that's all for me today. Think about what you just heard. Do you want to eat this stuff?